We know you want to get those aha moments, understand things deeply, but, without getting totally bogged down.
Exactly. Quick but thorough.
So let's jump right in. Today, we're exploring Cubism. It was this huge, game-changing art movement.
Absolutely.
And we want to look at its influence, how it's still impacting art even now, especially in the digital world.
Right. Cubism really kicked off in the early 20th century. You have to talk about Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque. They were the key figures.
The pioneers.
Definitely. And their big idea, the radical part, was ditching the old way of painting something from just one single spot.
Okay, so before them, it was like, set up your easel, paint what you see from there.
Pretty much, yeah. That single, fixed viewpoint,
Yeah.
Cubism completely broke that mold.
So what was the goal instead?
Well, the core idea was to show a subject from lots of different angles, all at the same time, on the same canvas.
Like walking around something and somehow squashing all those views together?
That's a good way to put it. And linked to that was breaking things down, deconstructing objects into basic geometric shapes.
You mean like seeing cubes, spheres, cylinders, that kind of thing?
Exactly. That early stage, what we call analytical cubism, was all about that fragmentation. It really foreshadows some digital art techniques, actually.
So less like a photo and more like an idea of the thing built from shapes.
Precisely. It was a move towards abstraction. The goal wasn't a perfect copy. It was more about the concept, the structure.
Are there famous examples of this early stage?
Oh, definitely. Picasso's Le Demoiselle d'Avignon from 1907 is, well, foundational. And Braque's houses at Lestock from 1908, you can really see that shift.
And I remember the colors were quite muted.
Yes. In analytical cubism, the palette was often limited, browns, grays, ochres. It helped keep the focus on the form, the structure, not get distracted by bright colors.
But it didn't stay that way, did it? Didn't it get more colorful later? And they started adding things?
You're right. Around 1912, it evolved. We call this next phase synthetic cubism. And that's where you see brighter colors coming in, and also collage, like literally sticking bits of newspaper, wallpaper, fabric onto the canvas.
Wow, that sounds pretty modern even now.
It really does. And those collage ideas, you can see a direct line to digital layering and mixed media work today.
It's kind of amazing that ideas over 100 years old are still so relevant. Our sources definitely suggest Cubism is alive and kicking in the digital age. How does that work? How do they connect?
It's fascinating, actually. Digital tools have opened up totally new ways to play with those core Cubist ideas. Think about 3D modeling software.
Right.
Artists can take a virtual object, spin it around, break it apart, show multiple sides. Things Picasso and Braque could only imagine doing on a flat canvas.
So it's like Cubism on steroids almost, digitally.
In a way, yes. And things like graphic design software make digital collage so intuitive. It captures that fragmented multi-perspective feel really well.
Any examples you've seen?
Well, Canvas Prints Australia is mentioned in our sources. They feature digital prints and collages that clearly show this kind of influence.
And David Hockney comes up too. He's famous for embracing technology, like his iPad art. Is there a Cubist link there?
Oh, absolutely. Hockney's iPad work often plays with showing different viewpoints in one image, which is pure Cubist thinking, just with a new tool.
So he's kind of bridging that gap.
He is.
Yeah.
And he's not alone. There are contemporary artists really running with this. Anna Higgy, for example, blends traditional painting with digital methods in a very Cubist-inspired way.
Interesting.
Then there's Joshua Davis doing abstract digital stuff that often feels like it's breaking down forms, multiple perspectives implied. And Eric Natsky creates interactive digital art. You can often see a clear Cubist influence in the structure, how the pieces are put together.
So it's definitely not just history, it's being actively reworked. And that brings us to this idea of Neo-Cubism in 2025 that our sources mention. What's that about?
Well, Neo-Cubism seems to be this resurgence or reinterpretation for our times. It's using new media, AI tools even.
Why now, do you think?
Maybe because our own lives feel quite fragmented, with technology and screens everywhere. Cubism's way of breaking things down and putting them back together might feel relevant again. It helps make sense of the complexity, perhaps.
That makes a lot of sense. Art reflecting our experience. Is this Neo-Cubism just copying the old style or adding new things?
Oh, definitely adding new things. Artists are tackling contemporary themes, sustainability, social justice, digital identity, using this Neo-Cubist approach.
And how does the digital aspect play in?
It's key. Not always VR or anything, but using tech to create those layered perspectives. geometric design software, motion graphics. They're expanding the toolkit.
And I read something about mixing physical and digital materials, too.
Yes, that's a big part of it. Combining, say, reclaimed wood with digital projections or holographic elements.
Bridging the real and virtual.
Exactly. It reflects how interconnected our lives are now, the tangible and the digital rubbing shoulders.
What about the look? Is it still those muted colors?
Not really. The trends mentioned for 2025 sound much more vibrant.
Yeah.
Think ice blue, fiery red, sunny yellow, and geometric patterns.
Okay.
Also, dynamic digital projections that react to movement, interactive light patterns using LEDs or fiber optics, holographic forms with iridescent colors.
Wow.
And still that emphasis on sustainable materials, like reclaimed wood, bamboo, recycled metal, alongside the tech.
It sounds like Cubism got a high-tech, colorful makeover. But its influence wasn't just painting, right? It spread elsewhere.
That's a really important point. Its ideas went way beyond the gallery wall. Think about video game design.
How so?
Well, showing environments or action from multiple angles to make it more immersive. That owes something to Cubist thinking. Same with virtual reality, creating engaging, multifaceted viewpoints.
So when I'm playing a game and the camera view shifts, there's a bit of Cubism in there.
You could definitely argue that, yes. The principles are there. And it influenced architecture, graphic design, too, how we think about space and form.
Now, something that really stood out in the sources was how contemporary women artists are using Cubism. It seems quite powerful.
Yes, this is really insightful. Artists like Farah Tassi, Tani Lonsdale, Maquita Ahuja, Akia Brion, Danielle Orchard, they're taking Cubist techniques and applying them to current issues of seeing and being seen. Especially around gender.
How are they doing that? What's the connection?
They're using that fragmentation, the distortion, to talk about the gap between, say, how women are viewed externally and their internal reality, or the shifting nature of identity itself.
So the style itself carries meaning. Breaking things apart reflects feeling broken apart or seen in pieces.
Exactly. Farah Atassi, for instance, looks back at Picasso's paintings of bathers, but she reframes it. She explores the artist-model dynamic, trying to give the subject more autonomy.
Right.
Tani Lonsdale makes these big, blocky, geometric figures. Her aim, she says, is to show them taking up space, asserting presence.
And Makita Huja. Her work sounds layered.
It is. She combines personal history, family stories, historical narratives, using Cubist flatness and geometry, but centering women of color. Akia Brion uses digital printing on tapestries, creating fragmented figures and landscapes to talk about colonialism and identity. And Danielle Orchard paints female nudes in domestic spaces. She uses Cubist methods, flattening, odd angles, mirrors, shadows, to create this subtle feeling of unease, asserting bodily autonomy, questioning the gaze.
It's really striking, taking a historically male-dominated style and using it to articulate contemporary female experiences. Fascinating. Now, there was also a brief mention of Cubism in Australia in a post-colonial context.
Yes, that touches on how art movements travel and change. The Cubism and Australian art exhibition showed how local artists took Cubist ideas and made them their own.
Adapting it.
Right. And Robert Rooney's work after colonial Cubism comments on how Cubism got dispersed, interpreted secondhand, far from its European roots.
Like an idea echoing and changing as it spreads. And speaking of different interpretations, Bill Shannon's work sounded very, very 21st century.
Oh, yes. His Fragmentation series, live. It's an installation using video cameras, projectors, hollow screens.
Not paint at all.
No. It creates this live video representation of a person from multiple angles at once. It really speaks to how complex, maybe even elusive identity feels in our screen-heavy culture.
A technological Cubism for the digital self. And finally, Cubism 2.0, post-Cubism in Europe. What was that about?
That exhibition looked at artists who came after the first wave of Cubism. They took that core idea, rejecting the single viewpoint, and ran with it in landscape, still life, everyday scenes.
No, building on it.
Exactly. Andre Lode is the key example. He applied Cubism to landscapes, and he was a really influential teacher. His painting Sur la Terrasse is mentioned.
Okay.
And the exhibition also highlighted how, for some artists, Cubism wasn't the final destination. It was more like a bridge, a stepping stone toward pure abstraction.
So it opened doors, even for artists who moved beyond it. That really shows its impact.
It really does.
Yeah.
Think about it, over 100 years old, yet those core ideas, multiple perspectives, geometric forms, abstraction, they're still sparking creativity across all sorts of media today.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. Cubism wasn't just a blip in art history. It started as this radical break in the early 1900s.
Totally shaking things up.
But its innovative energy is still powering art now. especially it seems in the digital world. Artists are using its ideas with new tech, but also using it to explore who we are now in our complex world.
Which leaves us with a thought, maybe for you listening. How does that Cubist idea, seeing from all angles, connect with how you experience life today with all its digital fragments, and what new ways of seeing reality might come out of this ongoing artistic conversation?
Definitely something to think about. If this sparked your interest, maybe look up some of the contemporary artists we mentioned, or go back to those early Picasso and Braque pieces. See them with fresh eyes.
Yeah, or just notice how you perceive the world around you. Are you seeing it from just one angle?